apologize for that abrupt break. It was due to technical challenge in the studio. But like I mentioned, good evening. Welcome to AYV on Sunday. Tonight, we shall be reviewing the first week of the voter registration exercise. In the studio, I have a star-studded panel to help me unpack the topic for the next 2 hours. I have Alfred Minkailu Kuruma from the Publicity Secretariat of the Opposition All People's Congress Party. Alfred, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Samuel. Delighted to be here.
All right.
Glad you are back. We should speedy recovery.
Thank you. Thank you. I have with me Engineer Kalon, who is the young generation leader of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. Engineer, good evening and welcome to
good evening, Samuel.
All right, I also have with me Reverend James Lahai, who is the National Coordinator for National Elections Watch New. Reverend, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Samuel. Good evening, viewers.
All right, we await the arrival of the representative from the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone, the body charged with the responsibility of developing Sierra Leone's voters register and conduct elections. When they show up, we'll definitely hear from them with regards to challenges that have come up so far in the voter registration exercises across Sierra Leone. Reverend, I'm going to start off with you for obvious reasons. The last time I had you here on this very show, Sierra Leone Decides 2023, you were in Kenema, observing, monitoring the entire process in that part of the country, and there were critical issues you raised based on what you observed. Take us through some of those things and whether or not, before leaving those parts of the country, those issues were addressed.
Well, the problem at that time were not addressed. And so when we came back from the field, we engaged the Electoral Commission and drew their attention to our findings in the field, especially those that were within their capacity to manage so that the voter registration would go on smoothly. And one such concern is still persistent. That is malfunction of devices at the registration center. They actually promised to take action for the VVK, the voter verification kit. That is the laptop where the data from NCRA is installed, had a major problem of power retention. And so we are giving the information that the commission was going to hire a generator, 1 per ward, so that the ward coordinators will go around the registration centers in the ward and have those VVKs charged to the maximum. Because according to the chairman of the ECSL, if those laptops are charged to the maximum, they can serve for up to 8 hours. But coming to this studio and doing a scoop with our observers out in the field, it seems the problem, rather than being solved, is escalating. And
also some of the problems you mentioned, when we had that conversation here, one has to do with low turnout. Of course, you've mentioned the issue of faulty machines and late opening of centers. Some centers did not open at all. Of course, low police presence in some of the areas, and especially in the east where you were at the time, you realized that only maybe the ruling party sent party agents in some of the centers, and few were other opposition party agents. So if you're saying all of these things, instead of them being addressed, they are being compounded every day, what does this mean for the development of a credible voter register? Because you, the experts in the field of elections, have always said credible, free and fair elections, they start with a credible voter register.
Exactly. Having a voter register with integrity is principal in having an election that you will refer to as credible. Because the voter register determines whether people are disenfranchised or not. And that is why any hiccups related to voter registration must be treated with all seriousness. And that's where my disappointment, or as an institution, our disappointment is in relation to the participation of political parties. The SLPP, especially in the East, deployed party agents in almost all the polling stations that we observed. APC didn't do that, didn't do as much as that. And of course, there was no other political party at that time. And even as I am speaking, the participation of other political parties besides the APC and SLPP is very, very insignificant. The C4C is limited to Kono, and the NGC can be counted on the fingertips. And we believe this is not good for democracy.
Is it not because, I mean, at the end of the day, what we've seen in Sierra Leone over time, especially when we talk about elections, it's like a two-horse race, APC and SLPP. Others do not, but we've seen the 2018 elections, especially Parliament, with such a fascinating outcome, having 4 different political parties in Parliament. So you think those parties at least should have, participated in sending agents?
Quite apart from political parties in Parliament, you see, politics is dynamic. If you say these are the 2 powerful political parties, it can lead to lethargy. But we have seen instances in this country where political parties have sprung up and they've made impressive inroads into the electoral process. UNPP almost won in 1996. PDP made an impressive inroad also at that time. And PMDC also at some point. And what was impressive about these political parties, they were not concentrated in any particular place. They were across the country. For now, the NGC in the last election did very well only in Cambia district. And the C4C did well only in Kono district. And when we are now talking about especially the presidential race, it's not about a district, it's national. That is why they have to be up and running. They have to be seen by the people. People should be able to assess them and determine that they are serious about the enterprise they have decided to enter into.
With these challenges you've highlighted, Reverend, have you in any way, as National Elections Watch, have you in any way engaged the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone to perhaps put ways and map out strategies to surmounting some of those challenges? Because evidently, I spoke with the Chief Electoral Commissioner, Mohamed Konowi Kone, day 1 of the registration exercise, and clearly what he mentioned was that the program was going to be, fraught with many challenges because it's the start of a process and we are only starting, voter registration digitally now at this age. So it was, these challenges were anticipated and plans were put to surmount some of the challenges.
Well, the digital component of the registration cannot be used as an excuse because even in 2018, the registration was digital. If you can remember very well, it was the same 2 institutions manning the registration process with the Electoral Commission leading. But then I agree with what he said. The evidence was very clear on the first day of the registration. Firstly, a lot of registration centers could not open because materials did not arrive on time. Materials arrived very late in most of the district headquarter towns. And these materials were to be further distributed to registration centers, some far to reach areas and some hard to reach areas. And so as a result, a lot of registration centers did not open on the first day. There was, of course, an improvement on the second day because materials arrived. But what was frustrating was when voters, registrants went to the registration centers, but then the devices were default, were malfunctioning. And there was no remedy in sight. But I would want to commend the citizens. In some communities, like one village I went to near Blama, a registrant offered his generator and also said he would provide the fuel so that the kits would be charged for registration to continue. And this is the kind of spirit we are expecting from citizens
to contribute and
to
make the process
to the electoral process, not on any partisan basis.
Let me ask you this question, Reverend, just quickly before I bring in the two politicians. Looking at the figures put out by the Chief Electoral Commissioner, he told us almost 500,000 citizens were registered just in the first 4 days of the process, which was a success, if at all we are to go with that. Though many are challenging that based on what they've witnessed in the field in terms of the challenges. But shouldn't we be saying improvement is taking place? We should support the Electoral Commission to get things done and fix some of the problems as we go along. With just in 4 days, close to 500,000, citizens were registered.
I cannot comment on that data. But when I consider what is happening in the registration centers, even where registration is taking place, it is so very slow, and it is so very frustrating. More and more people are going out and flooding the registration centers. But then the processing of the registrants is so slow that this is frustrating registrants. And I think the registration staff have to step up to ensure they match the ever-flowing number of people into the registration centers, so that people do not become frustrated and then apathy steps in to say, I give it up. I'm not sure I'll register this time around.
All right, let me bring in Alfred Minkalu Kuruma. Alfred, you're on record for saying you as an individual, during your registration exercise, you spent about 15 minutes to go through the process. And I just read a press statement issued by the parliamentary leader of the opposition belonging to the APC, Honorable Cherno Ramadan Majuba, referencing, for example, the Christchurch Center, where, according to him, the process was put on hold for all day, just few hours, just because registration materials were out. So, and he is saying if in the capital city those challenges are so bold, then what is happening in the other areas outside Freetown, especially the remote areas? What has the APC observed with the registration process since last week, the 3rd of this month to now?
Yeah, Samuel, I want to comment by making reference to some legal provisions. Yeah, what needs to be noted is that the law is abundantly clear. Section 31 of the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, Act number 6 of 1991 is very clear. When you are a Sierra Leonean, you are 18 and above, or you'll be 18 before the date for election, and you are of sound mind, it is the responsibility of ECSL to register you as an eligible voter in this country. The Public Elections Act of 2022 is also very clear, and other regulations are also very clear. You see, I am seeing the challenges are becoming enormous by the tick of the clock. Every day they are becoming enormous. That is also the reason why ECSL must take this into account. You cannot change the rules of the game in the middle of the game.
Was that the case?
No, I am just saying.
Okay.
Because I am seeing circumstances in which people are denying to register even first-time voters.
Why is that?
They are telling them they need to bring their birth certificates. In some cases, they are saying they have to scan the birth certificate.
To ascertain their age.
To scan the birth certificate, to send it to somewhere they can verify it. You know, it is becoming very cumbersome. And that is not the case. I have been fortunate to register to vote in 2002. I have been fortunate to register to vote in 2012, 2017, and 2022. I have witnessed about 4 or so registrations in this country. What obtains now is quite different from what used to obtain. My own case, it is an eyewitness account. I have traversed most places around the country. I went to register in Tonkolidi, constituency 052, Ward 175 to be specific. That is Bonkolenken Chiefdom, at a place called Masumana. Firstly, I arrived at 8 a.m. I was there till 1:30 p.m. before the ECSL officials will arrive with the kits. So I waited painstakingly, I waited for them to fix up the place. And after that, they asked me for my NCRE registration slip. I gave them the information. No data about me exists in the NCRE database. And
you had gone through that process, you had registered?
I verified, I took a snapshot, and I have my slip with my photo attached to it. All of the information are clear. I gave them my NIN number, nothing was found. I gave them my date of birth, all of the unique characters that they asked for. Nothing was found. Luckily for me, I had to go through my email to get my voter ID because I uploaded it. I gave them my voter ID, and then they were able to verify. I was captured under the ECSL system, but for NCRE, no data about me exists. So if the NCRE and ECSL cannot synchronize, they told us that we are going to verify. Information in the 2017, they work collectively so that they cannot be repeating registration. When you are registered in 2017, when you go now, it is just for confirmation.
Let me quickly ask you this question.
It is a different case.
Let me ask you quickly this question about, as you mentioned, the NCRA, the Civil Registration Authority. You know, if we go back to Parliament, for example, when the repeal for the 2012 Elections Act was being done, members of Parliament removed the issue of national identification number to be in the process. So like I asked the Chief Electoral Commissioner, what has the civil registration process got to do with the registration of voters, when clearly the legal provisions say NEC is charged with responsibility of registering voters in Sierra Leone. So what was the aspect of the civil registration in the entire process of registration? Well, I mean, you belong to a political party. Yes. Was there any form of engagement as to why NCRA was brought into the process?
Yeah, well, for ECSL and NCRA, the justification they are giving for them to be involved is that certain people were not captured. Certain people did not register even. Some did not even verify. So they want to use this like to save resources. For the country. For me, it is not a bad idea.
Right.
Because in the end, we may not want to see at any given election, people are being registered. If they can be able to work mechanisms out to capture people, it is not a bad idea. But what is bad is this. The turnout is very huge, and the problems we have recorded are far too many. The challenges are becoming enormous on a daily basis, and NCRA is yet to even address most of them. Samuel, I have a chart here with me. As a political party, we have recorded all of these. In some quarters, we have started engagement. After the first 10 days, we are going to give a comprehensive, report on the challenges recorded so far. Now, you see, there are issues: startup kits delay, faulty machines, NCRA issues, center code mismatch, energy or electricity shortage, insufficient machines, a lot of issues. And now what has compounded the problem is the problem of first-time voters. You see, in my village, for example, a place called Makande, Ward 175, in the Bonkolenken Chiefdom. To move from Makande to Masumana is about 8 miles. In the rainy seasons, you use canoes, or what we call boats, to access the registration center. It is frustrating that I was called to be told that a lot of our colleagues, junior colleagues, when they are to be registered, they were turned down.
Why?
Making a claim that they have not reached the voting age, even though recommendations were made. And what needs to be also made abundantly clear is this.
Did they take the normal document to verify that they are of the voting age?
When I started, I told you, aside the 1991 Constitution, Section 31, yeah, which states you have to be a Sierra Leonean. You understand that? It is very clear.
Right.
You have to be 18 and above, or will be 18 prior to the election date, on the day of the election. Yeah. There are other regulations. You know, the drafters of these laws are no fools. They are aware of the fact that not everybody is in possession of a birth certificate. In some places where, you know, people deliver, people are being born in some places in this country where there are no hospitals. You cannot talk about birth certificate. And that is why the regulation is also there for a stakeholder. When we say stakeholder in this case, we have said a counselor, we have said head of an institution, we have said a religious head, to be there to also make recommendation. But now the ECSS staff are even turning down some of these regulations that they cannot recognize them.
Okay.
That is what is compounding the problem.
All right.
And we need to make this clear. Most of this is very eminent in our strongholds. Some of these challenges are just too deliberate.
Are they unique in your
Most of
areas?
them are very eminent in our strongholds. And I want to make it abundantly clear that we are going to engage ECSL and the authorities concerned that nobody who is eligible will be left out. Everybody who is eligible in our stronghold will be registered. As a political party, that is what we are going to push for.
All right, continue to stay with me. Let me bring in Engineer Kalon, the young generation leader from the ruling Zayden People's Party. You've listened. Of course, the last time we had you here in our breakfast show, I highlighted some of the challenges, but efforts were in place to address those challenges. So what's the current situation?
Well, for my own part as a political party, we are very much okay with the effort of ECSL in solving these enormous problems.
So efforts have been made?
Yeah, efforts have been made. For example, the shortage of power.
Yeah.
I contacted ECSL and they have notified us that there was issue with the ECSS staff in the manner in which they should operate the solar generator. And now that the voter registration started September 3rd, after a few days of the exercise, they are now abreast in the way they use the solar generator. So they are not, they understand it now better. And it was because of that, because when you have a shortage of power and the computer goes off unexpectedly, you know what that means in technology. It has to take time to come back to normalcy. So those were the problems, and now it has been resolved because all of the ECSL staffs are now abreast. They understand the use of the solar generator. And of course, just like the coordinator of NEW is saying, some people are so magnanimous in helping some communities to give power to some centers. Of course, for the malfunctioning of computers, I said here the last time that at that time we contacted ECSL. For example, I'm also coming from Cambia District, Mabema Chiefdom to be specific, Okupo, and there were so many malfunctioning machines, and we called all of them were replaced.
Today?
No, that was the second day of registration.
Okay.
So they were all replaced. 10 of them were all replaced, and there has not been any complaint of malfunctioning of machines in that part of the country.
So you're saying when you experience challenges or problems, you contact ECSL,
yeah, sure,
and the commission swiftly responds to addressing them.
Yeah, to address them. So we are okay so far because they have been responding to some of these issues and they have been solving them.
Okay.
Of course, in the area of the first-time voters.
Yes.
Yes, the Constitution is very clear that if someone is a Sierra Leonean, age 18 and above, or will be 18 prior to the date of the election next year, June 24, 2023, should have the constitutional right
to be registered.
If he or she avail him or herself to register. But you have to prove that you are a Sierra Leonean.
Okay.
And some of these documents should be a national identity card or a birth certificate. That's very simple. And the same constitution gave room that a pastor, imam, chief, etc., will be able to vouch for people. But however, A chief cannot vouch for 10, 20, and 30 or more people to say this person is above 18 or is 18 or will be 18 in June 24. It's very impossible. So Sierra Leoneans should have birth certificate because it is your right. You should have your birth certificate to present it.
Have you in any way, have you in any way experienced that? As a party, the SLP?
Oh, yes.
The APC is claiming here that
yes.
this is only
We experienced that in Kailahun, Kenema, Bo. I'm just coming from Kailahun, Kenema, Bo, Pujon, Bont, Moyamba. And we experienced the same issue. And we told them the constitution is very clear. You have to present your birth certificate or a national identity card. But a chief, a imam, a paramount chief cannot vouch for over 10 people claiming that these people are 18 and above or will be 18.
So even if the paramount chief has always been there, has always been around, knowing fully that...
It is not possible, even in your household. If you have an extended family, you cannot tell us all the date of birth of all those you housed. It's very impossible. So thinking about a whole section, a whole chiefdom, a whole ward for you to know all of those first-time voters that they will be 18 or they are 18 or they are above 18.
So you're saying these
challenges?
You're saying these challenges are not unique to just the strongholds of the APC,
of course.
as the APC is claiming.
No,
this is everywhere.
It is everywhere, just like the malfunctioning of machines. It's everywhere. The challenges were everywhere. But what we are happy about is that ECSL is there to solve the problems.
Okay, so you're satisfied with the way the Electoral Commission is responding to addressing these concerns?
Yes, as a party, we are satisfied.
Alfred, are you satisfied?
We are not. There are certain things I have to make very clear here. We understand the political dynamics of this country, and that is why we are thankful that we have an independent body in the person of NEW.
Right.
The National Elections Watch. They have observers in all of the centers. They have also made their independent observations. Outside us politicians or political parties, they will always give an independent view as to what obtains on the ground. Yeah. Reverend, they say the problem rather than being solved.
Before you come into some of those things, let me quickly ask Reverend this question. NEW is the biggest election observer body in this country, and you've been in this, observation and monitoring of elections for the longest of time. A consortium of over 300 institutions. Now, is the Electoral Commission responding swiftly to addressing some of these concerns? Especially when you raise them, when you've gone to the field, you've seen firsthand these challenges, you've brought them up. Are they responding swiftly? And by the way, let me quickly tell those of you just joining us that we still have a spot. We have an empty chair here. For the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone. They accepted to be here tonight. We've not seen any representative. The chair is still here waiting. Yes, Reverend.
The Electoral Commission is making some efforts. But the efforts is not enough. And the problems still abound. What we should establish at this stage is that in this first phase of the registration process, across the country, days have lost. And so the Electoral Commission should start thinking about that. The registration was to take place for 2 weeks, but some days of that 2 weeks have lost. So they should start thinking
of extension
of what mechanisms can be put in place so that those who have missed out because of those missed days will have the opportunity to be registered. You see, Samuel, our problem in this country is people put politics on everything. And because they put politics on everything, we keep on missing out on opportunities. The last time National Election Watch was saying, why do we want to go for a midterm census? If you have that money, invest in the NCRA process. The plans for the NCRA process was to make sure that there was a registration process because it has to be continuous. So the plan, according to them, was to have registration going on in every chiefdom on permanent basis. If some investment had been made in that infrastructure,
and that permanent infrastructure
exactly,
that registers everything.
Exactly. We would not have been faced with this issue of first-time voters and the issue of their ages. Because all of these would have been captured and would have had a database that was ready for the use of the Electoral Commission, Sierra Leone.
So you're saying it would have been easier to have that register at the Civil Registration Authority so that even the voters list would have been extracted?
It is not the voter list that is extracted. What the ECSL extracts is data of people who by June 23rd, 2023 would be 18. So that data provides the basis for the ECSL to develop its voter register. So what I am trying to push is that if investments had been made in the NCRA process, we would have had credible data with integrity that the ECSL should now be playing around with.
Okay.
The issue of people coming to determine what their age is would not have arisen anymore because that would have been captured. But give me 1 minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me speak to the public on some serious damage that they are doing to themselves.
Go ahead.
People are allowing themselves for their children who are underage to acclaim ages above.
Can I hold it there? Let me hold it there. That is something that is very crucial and critical. And I would still want to go and take some clips. We've seen where politicians are promising money, where politicians are giving money to electoral staff at centers. We've seen where people, minors, have been arrested and taken to the police station because of. So let's sit and watch some of these challenges, and we come back to what should be done with all of these things and the politicians being at the center of them.
Yeah. See, c'est Sunday. First, you know, I don't soak, we don't go change. Then they come back, we go host to host, community to community, forget people and forget outside and register. And when you don't register, with team, the PhD movement in collaboration with APC Canada, but they give anybody showing certificates to register 100,000 euros. Rain or no rain, na for Canada, moka register. The committee said, say, level 3 has been activated. Remember, better go only possible if we all Canada and register.
I meet the register this bubble. I ask, you know 18? He said yes. Wait, birth certificate. Now this you show me as a birth certificate. I don't call it. Look at. Yeah, Rochen. No, Rochen Junction. Yeah. Now imagine if you call this a birth certificate. Not a birth certificate. So when the birth certificate this man show? Where you can just on a like I tell you, count authority somebody. No, but there's no document that is authority signed here.
Good morning. This now Ward 416. Within our center, attire base center code 16 to 67. Right? We'll get a concern also. We get people then wake up for register, especially the first time voters then. As you can see, this na the affidavits where they get. They come for register, they refuse them, they say for register them. They come with the VRC, when the VRS, when they before say na the school, Beke or was result, they say you don't want them. Then the people then go back and go bring an affidavit for them who can register them. They say they don't go register the people then. And when the people then go to the NCRA, forgot to take birth certificate, then they refuse to give the people the birth certificate. So we don't know why make neck. They try for disenfranchise the people for many people not register, especially the first-time voters then. So I call on the international community, the European Union, may they take a prompt action immediately. Thank you.
Interesting, very interesting there. There's also another video we're trying to get. The video is showing, I think it's the women's leader of the SLPP dishing out money. Oh, okay, sorry. Dishing out money to electoral staff as clearly seen, and that has been widely condemned again, thinking that, oh no, this beats the integrity of a registration process. Reverend, I'm going to start off with you again. I know Alfred wants to jump in, and Engineer Kalon also wants to jump in. But I know, please continue to act that. I will come to you shortly. Reverend, you wanted to address or talk about the issue of minors being influenced to go and register. It's becoming worrisome. That we're seeing from both sides, the APC and the SLPP, clearly pushing people to go and register. Some incentives being given financially, asking people to go register. Where are we headed with these practices?
Destroying society. That is where we are heading. Firstly, these people who are doing this act are telling us that they are dishonest and they want to come into leadership. But like I started, I want to caution parents who are allowing their children to upgrade their ages so that they can register. The registration is going to capture all your futures, your bio, your facial features, and your details. If you are 14 years and you say you are 20 years, you have added 6 years to your age. In the event where any of your parents die, you will have gone above age, and so you will not benefit from whatever benefit NASIT will be paid to children who are below 18 and are dependents on those people. Additionally, by the time you go through school, get to college, and start to work, they will retire you when you are still supposed to be working. Mind you, any data they are taking now will not change again. And so if you claim you are 20 when you are actually 14, because like even recruiting police, the military, certain job careers, you have age limits. So you are also creating a situation whereby you will be qualified for the job, but because of the age you have claimed for yourself, because you want to go and vote for the politician, you have now disadvantaged yourself. So they are destroying their future to satisfy people who not even want to know about them.
But where does this put the process of establishing a credible voter register that at the end of the day would ensure...
It is undermining. It is undermining the electoral process. And it is being done openly. This is where we are expecting the PPRC to come out strong, especially where we are now seeing videos, people distributing money, people coming out with videos to say we are paying this, so people go to vote. But in fact, let me tell you, politicians, they don't learn. What guarantee do you have that because you are giving the money to those people, they will come to vote for you? What guarantee do you have? If money can make people vote for you, what happened in 2007 would not have. The outcome would not have been what happened. Equally in 2018, if money is actually what speaks for people to vote, that outcome will not have been what it did. But they still believe people are fools. You know, when you fool the people, they fool you. They will take your money, they eat it, and they don't vote for you. And I will tell people, when they come with the money, accept it. Call for more. Let them give you and vote your conscience.
What does the future hold for a credible, fair, and transparent elections 2024?
It is bleak. Because these are the custodians of our governance system. And they are the same people who are publicly and blatantly violating the electoral laws. What they are doing now is electoral fraud. It should be punishable by law. And I am dismayed that no arrests are being made. Nothing is being done to ensure that what is happening is criminal and that these people must be brought to book. And it has now become an impunity.
All right. Alfred, so with all of these things, now you, the politicians, are at the center of some of the problems, some of the challenges that the process is encountering. First off, what's your take on the videos we've shown?
Yes, before coming to the videos, I was responding to a few issues when you actually called the attention of
Go ahead, Alfred.
Speak to them. You see, I have said, aside us the politicians, there is an independent, body which is new. They have observed elections in this country for far too long to earn the required credibility to speak to issues of governance and politics. Yeah. Now, they have said the problems, rather than being solved, are escalating. That voter register determine whether people are going to be disenfranchised or not. That is why we have always made it abundantly clear. Since the proposal, when the government of Sierra Leone proposed that they want to embark on a midterm census, we told them about the problems that we are to face. We foresaw these problems and told them that it was not timely. That could be waste of resources. Not only the APC, but some other organizations that are deemed credible also made interventions. But in the end, they went ahead with the midterm census. And now that they have recorded certain figures, they want the voter registration to match up with what they have already.
So you're saying this is a well-orchestrated plan?
Well orchestrated. So that is just it. It is no strange to us. We'll talk about deployment. I was in McKinney on Friday. That is the 2nd of September. I saw vehicles at the NEC office. They slept there up until the 3rd before leaving to deploy, when voter registration exercise was to commence on the 3rd. I was expecting ECSL to have deployed 72 hours latest, because our roads are deplorable. Some areas are not easily accessed. Why do you have to wait at the nick of time on the day of registration? Then you deploy. You now deploy. Some areas, like the place where I'm coming from, it is very deplorable to access certain centers. You have to go through rugged roads. Some roads, vehicles cannot even go there. So that is a very serious challenge in the future, or for the second phase, which they must address. Deploy 72 hours latest, or 48 hours before the time, so that you can be well placed or positioned.
Do we have that security to look after the materials if we deploy materials 72 hours?
I believe we have enough security to do that.
Go ahead.
Yes, I believe so. Now, my brother was saying generators in some places, people volunteer to give generators.
Right.
In the constituency I came from, the Honorable Member of Parliament, the sitting Honorable Member of Parliament, bought about 10 generators to assist ECSL staff for the machines, to get power. Those generators were turned down. That it is coming from an APC MP. The SLPP agents, and other people raised objections. They did not take the generators.
Would that not have been seen as politically influenced?
Now, political influence, when they want to assist the process, it is just assisting the process. Another challenge is language barrier. You cannot take Minkailu, for example, and send me to Kono if I am employed when I don't speak Kono.
What are you saying? That staff are taken from different districts or different places and sent to other districts?
To other districts. When you want to employ, in most places, they look at the languages of the people. Even in certain forces, they take the community people, employ the community people. You cannot take somebody who speaks Limba and send that person to Pujon or Kailan, for example, when there is language barrier. Some people in the villages, they don't speak Creole. And most of the employees only speak English and Creole. So it is also very frustrating that we've noticed language barrier is also delaying the process. Except you have to have somebody to interpret in some instances. ECSL must take note of that in the future when they are doing their employment.
I'm sure they are following the show.
Now, I've also seen Fatma Tasawane, the former women's leader of the SLPP, dishing money. That is also wrong. And nobody is there to condemn it. I have not seen a press release from the SLPP condemning that act. It is very wrong. I also saw Mawa Aliu at a place, Mano Junction or so in Kenema, in a green t-shirt, dishing money, calling President Bill 2023, asking people, campaigning to people who are in the queues. Nobody actually condemned
Which is not different from what we've seen also in an APC attire.
I am coming to that. I saw somebody in an APC attire claiming to be in Canada, asking that if people go to register,
who wanted to be the mayor of city of the Freetown city under the APC.
And the person is claiming certain APC people in Canada are saying when you come with your voter slip, they will give you 100,000.
Yes,
that is also very wrong. What is good for the goose must also be good for the gander. That is what we are saying. Anything that has got a semblance of destruction, which is not correct, must not be encouraged or tolerated. Now, I saw the Minister of Youth.
Yes.
It is wrong for him to be there. That is not his job. That is intimidation. He's a minister for crying out loud. And he was talking to somebody.
That's a question I put to him. What was he doing there? And he told me he came from that district, so he was there to register.
Even if he came from the district, he's not supposed to be there.
Yes, you will come in shortly. You will come in shortly. Let him
If I am
land.
minister, I will not go to Kenema, for example, and started posing in registration centers or to Tonkolili. I will not do that.
Even when you notice anomalies.
Now that is why the ECSL staff, they are there to pick up those anomalies.
But when they are according to the SLPP, they are the ones conniving.
It's not supposed to be there. They are there to pick up those anomalies. Besides, they have observers. They have party agents there. In certain circumstances, when they want to connive, it is their responsibility to now allow the necessary authority. Arrest will be even effected in some cases. But the minister was not supposed to be there. This is not the case.
So you think that undermines the credibility of the process?
Yeah. We are seeing a situation in which people are being asked to go swear to affidavits. Some are being asked to go bring birth certificates. Yeah, refusal to give birth certificate by the NCRA. I tell you, I was saying the NCRA from the coming of Mohammed Masako, it seems as if they have been having picnic at the NCRA because they are not doing their job. And secondly, it seems as if the financier for the picnic are the taxpayers because they are using our money to pay them. This is most of the reason why, in fact, you don't need to appoint well-known politicians in certain offices. It is wrong.
Are you saying Mohammed is a politician?
Yes. I saw him campaigning to be Secretary General for the SLPP. He contested alongside Napoleon, who is the current Secretary General, and Rado Soare, who is the Minister of Information. He met me at Baghdad at our base campaigning to be Secretary General. He went there. So how can you appoint such people in an institution that is supposed to be independent and credible? Most of these institution heads, they are just there as gatekeepers to protect their political party ideologies and to ensure that their party, comes back to power. It is wrong.
Okay.
If I am president, I will not appoint certain people to certain offices. I have great respect for Mohammed Kenewi Kone. I had followed him for a very long time, since he was at Addis, working there, I think for the AU or so. And he has demonstrated the character far beyond reproach. We expect more from him, and we think he should continue doing what is best, and it is in the interest of this country.
Engineer Kalon, let me hear from you with regards the videos that we...
First of all, I condemn all of those acts in both the two major political parties. Canvassing people, giving them money, it is against the laws, the electoral laws of this country. But I want to make it very clear to Minkalu here that the Minister of Youth have the right to be in that particular center because he is the district young generation leader for Tonkolili, for the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party. And he was elected for that purpose. And therefore, he has mandate to make sure that they monitor the process across Tonkolili district.
Not an SLP job, yeah. It's a national-
So that is it.
Yeah.
No, but he is representing a political party. So he has the right. Despite being a youth minister, he is also the district young generation leader. And he has the right.
His right is limited
So-
to just
No.
and verbally complain.
Of
Not to
course.
put people under duress.
He picked up
People were put under duress.
a fake birth certificate. And I read a press release written by the leader of the opposition in parliament. I did not see anything that he used to condemn those fake birth certificates, fake voter registration, underage registration, double registration. He has not condemned that.
And these were carried out by the APC.
Sure. He was only concentrating on condemning the issue of malfunction in machines, power shortage, net kits not being on time in all the centers, but he has not condemned fake birth certificates. And these certificates have been caught several times in the north and the western area and some parts of the country.
And
So
not-
we expect him as a member
exclusively
of parliament.
exclusively in the strongholds of the APC.
The passive strongholds of the APC.
And the APC...
Because we also have our presence in the north and western area.
Right. The APC is saying that the SLPP is orchestrating all of these things happening because they want to match the data put forward by Statistics Sierra Leone in the 2021 midterm national population and housing census. Is that anything to go by?
No. There is nothing to go by that. Why? The census, we gave every citizen the right to be counted. And you are well aware that the APC said they are not going out. People should not count. The Statistics Sierra Leone should not count them. People were beaten, staff were beaten. So how will you expect someone that has not been counted and him or her to be reflected in the statistics of this country? And we also make sure that NCRA, working alongside ECSL, for people to have another opportunity to avail themselves to be registered with NCRA and then register with ECSL for us to save the resources of this country. So it was the right of every citizen to avail yourself to be counted. We did not only conduct a census where they will say only if you are an SLPP, you will be counted. They say a census for
census.
all Sierra Leoneans. So you should avail yourself to be counted. So they are just making flimsy excuses. This process is very transparent. And I saw the leader of government, the leader of the opposition, Chairman Omar Juba, is saying that ECSL should be disaggregate the figures for the first 4 days that ECSL announced. If you want them to be disaggregated, then ask ECSL. If you want the existing voter registration, which they are using now to verify, you have the right to ask. Have you been asking ECSL, or you just want to be complaining?
He mentioned in that very press release that he has been engaging ECSL and other stakeholders in the sector to addressing the challenges.
But he also said that according to his knowledge, that no political party has been having the opportunity to have these data. Has the APC asked for those data?
Can the ECSL at this point give out the data? At this point, when registration is ongoing, can the ECSL? Because looking at what the Chief Electoral Commissioner did, announcing close to 500,000.
That's why the APC should have asked for this data before even the commencement of the registration. If you want it, it is there.
Which data
we
are you
used
talking
this
about?
data in 2018 elections.
Okay. The voter register for 2018 you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, for 2018.
Okay.
We used them. And it was available to all political parties. So why are you asking for it now? The APC is just about complaining. It's just about complaining.
Are you saying the APC is just crying wolf or crying foul over nothing?
Of course, over nothing. Because you asking for data at the middle of the game, when you have opportunity to ask for the data before the commencement of the registration, you have the right.
You know, there are so many messages I need to take, but Reverend, let me hear from you. The APC accusing the ruling party of a well-machinated ploy to continue staying in power. The APC saying, oh, the SLPP machinated the 2021 midterm census, got figures added to their strongholds, and now the voters' registration exercise should reflect, that perfect plan. It's just part of the plan. The APC, the SLPP is saying the APC is just a crying baby. They've done everything transparently with credibility and integrity. With these doubts, with these allegations and counter-allegations, where do you see the process leading?
I think they just want to confuse the public. Currently, on the issues around the voter registration around the country, we have not observed anything systemic like it is like disadvantaging anybody over the other. Because we have observers across the country.
Right.
And the same complaint is coming from across the country. And the issue of, you see, anytime they mention the census, it grieves me because the president was very sincere in his proclamation. He said, we want to have accurate data so that it can help us to plan better for the development aspirations of this nation. So for Statistics Sierra Leone to even acknowledge that people refused to register, to be counted, is a pointer that data is faulty, that data is not correct. That's what they are acknowledging.
But the institution is saying we're not going to coerce people. A political party like the APC issued a statement that, hey, don't go out and be counted.
I agree.
And they listen. They're a thyroid political party in this country. They have a huge following, so there are people listening to them.
I agree, Samuel. But I want you to go back to what your objective was.
To correct the wrongs.
Exactly. Your objective was to have an accurate data. Anything making you not get an accurate data cannot justify that data to be accurate.
And
that's the point.
And in essence, you're saying that the APC made that statement in protest that the process was not, being transparent. There were hiccups, there were challenges, and the timing was wrong. And of course, they also they also associated that with the decision of the World Bank.
You see, the saving grace would have been the NCRA that was not given the due attention because their process of registration is more reliable. It's concrete. You have face to name. You have biofeatures to name. For census, they look at census night.
Right.
And census night, where you slept, census, a lot of people will sleep where they don't even normally reside.
Right. And people leave their residences too.
So but that's what the Constitution calls for. And so, if that's what the Constitution calls for, Statistics Sierra Leone, we believe, is a professional institution. They would have ensured they did everything in their power to get cooperation because they want accurate data.
All right, that's interesting. Let me run through some messages, the ones that time would permit me to go through. Albert Joseph Fori needs some help, and when you take off the political lens, we'll see how you can contribute to for sure. Boka Isao is saying, so is the guy trying to blame SLPP for the lack of registration involvement from other political parties? who are independent institutions. And Grant is saying they have to be up and running for people to see them. But why complain that the two major parties are sending party agents to registration centers? Is that not contradictory, Reverend Lahai? The Reverend is interesting. He mentioned that the APC doesn't seem to have voters registration observers in the SLPP strongholds, but he didn't say anything about the conditions in the APC strongholds. Michael Kuka is saying that there's Egatin Akpondo is saying, give us areas where people registered all over the country, young people from 18 to 22, were refused to do their registration. If you can tell us those areas would help. Amadou Mustafa Falawa is saying, Mr. Wise, the two parties recruited their people in the Electoral Commission, Sierra Leone, to bring them their expectations of the result. I spent not 10 minutes because I have nothing to change. All right. The Reverend is stiffly fighting with his, okay, that's not what Bokari said, I'm jumping that. The two parties being criticized didn't stop or restrict any of the other parties from doing the same in calling their party members to go out and register. Centers in Waterloo are refusing to even accept birth certificates, George Thomas is saying. The challenges are there because some people didn't go through the civil registration verification process. Electoral Sierra Leone staff have to do fresh registration. That alone can slow down the exercise. Eddie Grant is saying that. Joe Vande Mustafa is saying, the challenges are so enormous. Seeing a lot of videos on social media, Ali Kaba, Fatmata Sawane, and other top government officials interfering with the process. The interesting part is why malfunctioning machines coming from opposition strongholds. This is interesting, right? My brother is struggling with the Constitution and the Public Elections Act. Please read Section 24 of the Public Elections Act. Birth certificates is just one of the 5 alternatives to be registered. Abdul Kabu is saying that. It is possible for you to know the date of birth for your family and family members, man. Okay? We have so many messages, but I'm going to see if time would permit me to take at most 5 more. Ambassador Mike Joseph Kano is saying, it's a crime to give money for electoral staff and a part of corrupt practice. And an act of corrupt practice will the ACC investigate, and even the person receiving the money is a crime. ACC and the police should look into this. Why are people endangering the lives of underage kids to register? This is not a good move at all, Eddie is saying. Why ECSL is refusing to register the first-time voters, which is their right to be registered. Ambassador Mike Joseph Kano is saying that. There are so many interesting messages. All these politicians that are doing these things, none of them have not been arrested for such crime. And what is our faith in the elections? The parliamentarian's action was good, but he should have donated the said generators directly to ECSL to help with the voter registration. All right, that's from Bokari Sayo. Ronald Georgeton is saying, well said, Reverend. It is indeed bleak. Our two dinosaurs have always used these methods of using money on their electorate due to poverty. Over $8 million have been pulled towards this registration process, and yet there are bottlenecks for people getting registered. If you, as a ruling party, believe you have nothing to lose come 2023, then why are there these impasse? APC SLPP should remember you can't fool the people anymore. Sierra Leone needs to do better for its people in over 61 years. Surely. Amadou Kagwe saying, until the last days of the registration, ECSL see people in the queue. I believe ECSL will be magnanimous to extend APC. APC is just making unnecessary claims because they have seen defeats. This is interesting. Let me take 3 more messages. It's unfortunate we have hundreds of them, guys. Our only solution to all these complaints and hula Balu is a digital system, a secure database that would capture everyone from childbirth, or else these problems would always happen. They say. Dauda Issa-Din Bundu is saying both APC and SLPP fail us, and the only love they have for Sierra Leone is for their political parties. All right. Dauda is saying he's watching from Algeria. Okay. Samuel, SLPP guys are bribing the ECSL staff to do their messes. All right. Ben Jamini is saying maturity begins when drama ends. That does not speak to anything. Engineer Kalon, first-time voters are being rejected in Cambia to register. That's from Musa Al-Hassan Kamara. Guys, I have to hold the messages there. There are so many, but we have to respond to them and find practical ways of addressing the challenges. I'll start off with you, Reverend, with the comments that I have gone through on Facebook.
There are 4 comments that I'm actually interested in.
Go ahead.
The issue of APC and SLPP deployment of observers at polling stations. The person is saying I didn't mention about APC deployment in their stronghold. I want to refer him to the fact that your question restricted me to what my answer should be.
Go ahead, Reverend.
Your question was where I was observing, and I was observing in the east, which is a presumed SLPP stronghold. If you had asked me about the national picture, I would have gone further to say that APC did very well in deployment of observers in their stronghold, but SLPP did equally well.
You have the opportunity to do that now.
SLPP did equally well in the APC stronghold in terms of deployment of observers. SLPP is in almost every center that we observe across the country, which is not the case for APC. I am saying this because it makes democracy interesting when political parties actually take their responsibility seriously, because this is an opportunity for you to participate in the process, to witness the process. So if you do not deploy an observer in the registration center, then you are not represented, and so you are not seeing what is happening. And that will result in unnecessary blames later on. Witness, so you accept the outcome because you were part of it. The issue of the recruitment of the registration staff. We as National Election Watch have a disappointment in this area.
Why?
Because previously we are called on to observe the recruitment process. And anytime we observe the recruitment process, we came out with our findings, and the ECSL responded to those findings in ensuring they improved on their recruitment process. This time around, we are not allowed to observe that process.
What was the reason given?
No reason. No reason was given, but our observers, especially our district coordinators, at every district, we are not given the opportunity to observe the recruitment process. And so we cannot comment on that process. Because we did not observe it. We wanted to, so that where issues would have been raised, we would have come out with an independent opinion on the process. But we are denied that opportunity. For first-time voters, this is one issue we raised with the ECSL. And indeed, they acknowledged that the VVK, that is the machine that should be capturing these people, the first-time voters, was designed such that it was not accepting anybody that was not up to 18 years. But they are now going out into the field, their technical team, we are going into the field to see what adjustments they are going to do to those machines to ensure that it allows those who would be 18 by June 23rd, 2023. We are following up to see how this is happening. But still, in few cases, there are complaints that these people are not being captured. What has compounded the problem is the dishonesty displayed by the political parties in wooing underage minors
Right.
to go and register. And then also the issue of fake birth certificates, fake documentation just to get these minors registered. And like I had warned earlier, it is to the disadvantage of those kids who are upgrading their age just so they register. Because when you are registered, the moment they save your details, it will no longer be edited, and it is going to affect your future. Because change in age is going to tell on your future in terms of recruitment, in terms of employment, in terms of retirement, in terms of benefits. The politician would have forgotten about you when you will be facing those challenges. So those young people should learn that conceding.
But these are people. These are people who cannot make decisions on their own at this point, so they are easily influenced.
So that's why their parents should be smart enough to resist the politicians using their children for that purpose. But unfortunately, it is even the parents that are helping in that situation, not noting that they are creating problems for their children. And at that time, they will not be there.
So how then do we engage the parents? So this goes back to, or this begs the question of, was there enough education, sensitization across the country to have gotten a clear picture as to what should be done? Who is eligible to be registered? What one should do when you go to the station, to the polling center, to the registration center, and all of these things. I mean, did we have that engagement with enough time to have given some form of orientation and education to Sierra Leoneans?
The education was not adequate. But that besides, even where it was going to be adequate, dishonest politicians will still undermine
unscrupulous ones.
Yes, they will still undermine the process. But actually, the education was not adequate. The education did not get down to communities. And because people rely only on the radio, and at times they say we have taken town criers, and these people are not monitored. You employ somebody, you give a megaphone to the person, and you say the person should go and work. And there's no monitoring mechanism to ensure that this person is working. The information actually is not in the domain at community level. And I think NEC needs to step up.
Is it only NEC, I mean, that should be involved in the registration, in the sensitization, education, and orientation of, you have political parties. I mean, I've seen so many politicians with flyers, some holding megaphones, calling on people to go out and register. But is it just to go out and register so you have the power to vote? But what should be done? Because these are the very politicians, unscrupulous ones, using these minors to do what they should not do. In fact, doing things that constitute electoral fraud, bribing electoral staff and other people to go in and do.
You are very correct, Samuel. The sensitization, awareness raising should not be limited to the ECSL. The political parties also have a responsibility. They are like trying to do that, but they are also breaching the law in the process, because their education is a campaign. They are hiding behind education on the voter registration to campaign. And our electoral laws ban any campaign until NEC come out with a campaign schedule. But you hear these people go vote and go register and vote for Madabu. Go register and vote for APC to come back to power. And that is campaigning.
Right.
And I wonder what the PPRC is doing in all this. The PPRC should wake up. A lot of these things that are happening are things that the PPRC should manage. But then, we come back to what is hindering.
Again, because I just wanted to say the PPRC has
Exactly.
always, come forward saying they are legally challenged.
Is handicapped. And it is the same politicians who should empower the PPRC by enacting the bill for the
regulate. That gives powers.
Exactly, the prosecutorial powers to the PPRC. But these people don't want to be regulated, and so the thing goes to Parliament, it is delayed, it is dragged, and it is not passed. This thing should have been passed at the same time that the Public Elections Act 2022
but again,
was passed.
Again, Reverend, is the Electoral Commission Sierra Leone living up to expectation? Because at the end of the day, it's the body charged with the ultimate responsibility of getting things done, getting the voters register, in a credible manner, with integrity and transparency that all can accept at the end of the day. Already, if the political players, are raising issues, crying foul, or thinking that the commission is being politically influenced, then it appears 2023 will be, a turbulent period.
The ECSL needs to go back to the drawing board. Open up. Get more players and be inclusive in their activities. Even if these problems are there, but then people were part of those processes, nobody would blame the ECSL because it would have been an inclusive activity.
Right.
ECSL cannot operate in a vacuum. ECSL is dealing with a very sensitive issue, managing a decision of who should be in governance. They have to be very open about their processes. Closing up is going to give them big-time challenges.
They should not operate in, their activities should not be shrouded in secrecy.
No way, it will not work. Because at the end of the day, they are going to be found wanting.
Let me hear from Engineer Kalon with regards your responses to the messages that came in earlier, if you have any.
Yeah, first of all, there was a comment that says we are struggling with the Constitution, that it's not only birth certificate. I said here that you should present birth certificate or a national identification card.
Right.
So that you'll be able to be registered. My point here is that someone there in the video you played is saying they presented an affidavit. They also presented a school leaving certificate or whatsoever. Those are not the documents stipulated in the laws of this country. First of all, we have to identify you if you are a Sierra Leonean. And those are few documents you use to identify yourself. That's why we give chance for NCRA to do their process. Some people did not take the opportunity to make sure for them to be registered with NCRA. And using minors, faking birth certificates, faking voters registration just for minors to register, I expect the parliamentary leader of the APC
You're saying to have
stated it in their press release.
So you're saying the fact
ignoring it shows that they are in the act. Oh yes, they ignored that particular segment. They did not capture it, and all of us know that plenty people have been caught using fake voters ID card, fake NCI slip, fake birth certificate, just for minors to be registered. And this is not called for. We'll give an example. In 2007, I was unable to vote because I was not of the age. At that time, I was pursuing going to the university, but yet I was not 18. So I did not avail myself to be registered. When the time was right for 2012 for me to register and vote, then I did. So we should not endanger the future of these minors just for them to be
So what
registered.
should be the role of you, the political parties, in ensuring that? Because ultimately, we all get it. Ultimately, your biggest ambition is to maintain power as the SLPP. The biggest ambition of the APC is to come to power at this point. And you can only do so with the figures.
No.
So play with the figures.
Yes,
it's only
yes.
figures that will get you
Sure.
to power. So, we've seen over time where the two political parties can do whatever it takes to win power.
No, the SLPP, we cannot maintain power at the detriment of the future of children and minors.
So with that said, what can you do right now as a political party to ensure that minors are protected and are taken out of the equation?
Well, that's why we said we make sure that we engage ECSL to go by the laws. No fake birth certificates. Chiefs and imams cannot vouch for people for a number of 10, 20, and 30. We cannot accept that. It's not possible. No chief can tell us that. A section chief can tell me that you have 10, 20, 50 children. You can vouch for them that they will be 18. Next year, June 24. There was no limit, but also there was no specific number. And it is incumbent on us as citizens to make sure that minors are not endangered because they want them to register.
What's in a situation where these minors, they go through the process of registration simply because some electoral staff, compromise. And we've seen that over time. We've seen staff from NEC, the National Electoral Commission, there being called out because they served as accomplices. They've compromised the processes of registration and even voting in by-elections. We've seen that. So how would you, the political parties, who are the major stakeholders, ensure that people who are recruited, I know definitely, it's difficult to tell, but NEC always does, the commission always does background check to understand that, you who are being recruited, whether you're APC or SLPP, when you are recruited, we know you think Sierra Leone and you act Sierra Leone.
Well, first of all, we have to be sincere to this nation as political parties.
Right.
Putting country above party. And we have to make sure that we refrain from these actions, because these actions are coming from members of these political parties. As for us, the SLPP, we refrain from any act that will undermine the electoral laws of this country. And we are transparent with the process. We believe that those we are encouraging to register are of age to vote. Whether you will be 18 next year or you are 18 and above, those are the people we are encouraging across the country, not only the Southeast, because our presence is there in the north and even in the western area. We encourage everyone to come out and register. So if you are 18 and above.
So quickly, what I just wanted to ask is this. So if already members of your party are seen, well, for lack of better words, it might not necessarily be bribery, but giving, dishing out money to electoral staff, saying, oh, we have to take care of these people, they're sacrificing a lot. But that is being considered as an act of electoral fraud already. Does that not mean that you can do anything and everything?
Just like I told you earlier on, we condemn those acts. Those acts break the laws, the electoral laws of this country. We condemn it. So we expect other political parties to condemn it. And also condemn presenting fake birth certificates.
Right.
Fake documents just for minors to register.
Okay. Alfred, so this is a situation, but let me first off allow you to respond to some of the comments that came in earlier.
A number of comments which I am interested in. Firstly, I equally do condemn the idea of having, underage children to be registered as eligible voters. It is very wrong, completely wrong, yeah. And when you make that attempt, there will be a mix-up in your documents. When you are in for the Becker, for example, you enter your details, date of birth, or what have you. When you take the WAS exam, you enter your details. So when you now register, and that is not indicated, you have a different age altogether. So they have to be very careful. Parents must be very careful. The process must be clean. Eligible voters must avail themselves to register. In the end, let the best person win the election.
Now, how do you get yourself as a political party now, the APC, in getting that message sync with people? Because already these things are happening according to the information in the strongholds of the APC. So it appears the APC is perpetrating
like
that.
I said, these are allegations. They are subject to further verification to ascertain the fact. That is more so the reason why I was even noting the point as Engineer Kalon was making some claims. Let me in fact state this. The leader of the opposition in Parliament, Cherno Ramadan Majuba Honorable, is a lawyer and is very meticulous in whatever he does. He cannot now come to say there are illegal birth certificates or fake birth certificates when he has not got the fact before him. He cannot state that in his press release. So to sit here and start vilifying him regarding the claims that have been put forward by the SLPP does not make any sense. I think, we must learn to understand that whatever is being stated for public consumption must be thoroughly verified. So the leader of the opposition cannot state that. Now, I was talking about these birth certificate issues.
Yes.
Now, in fact, this is happening for the first time in this country. I started registering in this country in 2002, 2012, 2017 or so. There has never been a time in which compounding problems of such when it comes to voter registration exercise are being put forward. The challenges of birth certificate, affidavit, or so. Somebody was just raising a point as to Kalon make a reference to the Constitution and the Acts, and there are a number of other identification documents, not just birth certificates. I agree. You have to present a national ID card or a passport or a birth certificate or certificate of naturalization or local tax, as the case may be. These are all established in the law books, Local tax. So those in the villages, we are not decentralizing in this country. When you want to take a birth certificate, you have to go to the provincial headquarters or regional headquarter towns. When you want to obtain a passport, you have to come to Freetown. When you want to take a national ID card, since we verified some 2-3 years ago, up till date, NCRA is here to make our ID cards available to us. So if you say everybody that avails themselves to register must present those documents, it is going to be very difficult. And that is why provisions are also being made that you have people like paramount chief, tribal head, town chief, section chief, village head, religious leader, head of educational institution, or councillor to vouch for people. Because not everybody will be in possession of either a birth certificate or a passport, a naturalization certificate, as the case may be. But then they are now saying a township, for example, cannot vouch for more than 2 or 3 people at the same time, in the same center, in the same day. And Kalon is saying that would be a magic for somebody to know the ages of everybody in his village. It is no magic. In some villages, there are people that are there to just take information. When you are town chief, because birth certificates are not readily available, they have a book. When children are being born, they take their names and the date on which they are being born. And when the parents want to even admit them to school or do any document, they will go to the town chief, for example, or the tribal head to get this information. So are you now telling us that those people should not be in the capacity now to make recommendation? It is wrong. The SLPP is making this very difficult. I have highlighted the one that has got to do with the leader and fake birth certificate. Now, he said, when he was responding, he said, Mohamed Oman Bangura, who is the Minister of Youth Affairs, is the regional or district young generation leader for the SLPP. This is no SLPP activity. This is a national activity. If he's accredited to be there as a monitor... Because
I was going to ask that question, whether he was accredited to be an agent. So you said he was...
If he's accredited to be there as a monitor, that is a different case altogether. But even as that, when you're accredited as a monitor, as an agent, even you, they don't have to, challenge the process in such a manner. Like raising objection, putting the child under duress, and doing things that are not necessary. You have to take note of the points, the inadequacies. Make a formal complaint to the person in charge of the center. If it is going to warrant any police intervention, they will have to take that. It is not you. If I am there as a monitor for my party, I am part of the National Monitoring, Voter Registration Monitoring Committee. I am part of that. But I will not go to center and begin to harass people like in Kaila or Kenima, where I was born and raised. I will not do that. I will make sure I channel the complaint to the right authority. We are talking about midterm census versus voter registration. I have said in Freetown, for example, when they say it is 600,000 people in Freetown, this voter registration exercise will have to actually discountenance that. That is why there are shortage of voter registration slip all over the centers. The booklets got finished in some centers, except they will have to bring them. People are in their numbers outside there to register. At Duazak, I saw a video done by Councillor Demdad, in which first-time voters, a good number of them were refused or rejected. And that is the reason why the SLPP is very shaky, because people are coming out in their numbers to register. So APC is making unnecessary claim because they have sense defeat. I am referring to one of the Texas now. We are not sensing defeat. In fact, we are overconfident that we shall win the elections, hands down. The SLPP is actually jittery. They are sensing defeat. That is why they want to use state institutions to now stifle the process. And let me state that elections are not only rigged on polling day. Elections can be rigged way before polling day. The drawing up of electoral laws, that is one step. We challenge them that NIN must not be a requirement. And we are there to ensure that the act that is being passed as the Public Elections Act was actually corrected to ensure political correctness. So we defeated them in that. They now come to say we are coming to treat them in voter registration exercise. And the young population, the young people are the largest in the country. Sierra Leone is a country with young population.
Are you sensing an act of rigging already as a party?
But the SLPP is attempting to rig the election. I am telling you what they are doing is deliberate. Some of the challenges, they created them. It is deliberate. How can you say people should not register except they present a birth certificate when the law is clear as to what obtains where there is no birth certificate? How can you go to Makande, for example, or Mansumana in the Bonkolenken Chiefdom and start telling people about passport, national ID card, when we that are in the urban areas are finding it very difficult to access these documents? When you want to obtain passports, you should have $100 or so. Many people cannot have that particular money to obtain passports. I always see people queuing at the NCRA office for national ID card. The process is cumbersome. We are not decentralizing. So if you say you are going to insist that people must bring their birth certificate, their passport, their national ID card, or their naturalized citizens, their naturalization certificate, it is going to create problems. So we are saying, let us go by the norm, what used to obtain. In situations where you cannot have your ID card, your passport, your birth certificate, certificate of naturalization or local tax, let somebody vouch for you. And those people should be the paramount chief, the tribal head, the town chief, section chief, village head, religious leader, head of institution, or a councillor. This is what used to obtain. In 1996, well, some of us, we are not eligible to vote, but we read that the complaints for registration were not too many as they are today. In 2002, they cannot be compared to today, talk less of 2012 and 2017. Why is 2022 is different from all of the other years? Is it that the SLPP, because they have failed in their manifesto promise, they are now jittery that they have been shown the exit door? I want to plead with my brother, Engineer Kalon, to talk to his political leaders to see how they can stay off this electoral process. Let us allow a fair play. In the end, if the elections are credible, if they are conducted transparently and they are fair, if President Bio is again able to command majority in the ballot box, the APC will accept defeat. But if we sense that there are electoral malpractices, that the election is being rigged, that our voters are potential voters, eligible electorates are prevented from registering, the APC will not take it light. It will not tolerate that.
Reverend, this means you have to brace up. And Sierra Leone as a state must brace up. Because if the SLPP is accusing the APC accusing the SLPP, the 2023 elections what are we really going to experience if the APC is saying, wait a minute, it appears there are rigging techniques being employed already. The APC, the SLPP is, well calculated in implementing that. And the SLPP is saying, all the problems we are experiencing now is the APC not accepting that they are not going to win. They've already sensed that they are losing the 2023 elections. And so we're going to 2023 with so many problems. How must we brace up as a nation? Electoral Commission, the security, us Sierra Leoneans, who will be making the decision?
The established EMBs in collaboration with civil society should have to brace up, because from the conversation you will realize that sincerity is not at play, that people are being deceitful and dishonest blatantly in the full view of their children. They are proven to be liars right in the presence of their children. And so the Electoral Commission should ensure, like I earlier said, let them open up their processes. Let the transparency of the electoral process be evident at every stage. And for us, we have already designed a strategy that we'll be employing to observe the elections, which we have started implementing even with this registration process.
Okay.
And it is making impact. Because after our observation of the first day, we came out with a press release outlining our findings and made recommendations. But beyond that, we engaged the Electoral Commission and brought to their attention critical issues that we felt required their action. Of course, there are certain other issues that are externalities, that are not their making, like the current intervention, criminal intervention of political parties to have minors be registered and that kind of thing. And so if they do that, then at the end of the day, whoever wants to create problems may not find room to create that problem, because an independent opinion will be there for verification. And for the election itself, we are going to be very, very scientific. Yes, very, very scientific this time around.
That you'll be able to pick up every...
Because the standoff that we have seen since 2018 to date between the APC and the SLPP, we believe there should be something to neutralize that standoff to save this nation from drowning.
What will be your assessment thus far of the entire process, Reverend? Not just the registration, but even before the registration, now the registration and the build-up to the 2023 elections.
My assessment is, if I want to come out playing, the APC has refused to accept that they are not in power. And the SLPP has displayed gross stubbornness in their processes. You draw their attention to issues and tell them this will not work. They will do it. And valuable resources are wasted. So there is a standoff. SLPP does not accept the 2015 census outcome.
Right.
APC does not accept the 2021
census
results.
data.
We are going into this election. We are barely about 10 months to the election. We are not even sure which system we are going to use, which electoral system.
Whether first past the post or the district block.
Yes. And it is time for the Electoral Commission to come out. Let them clear the air. Let's know how we are going. So we don't spring surprises. Elections do not require surprises. Let the Electoral Commission come out now and tell us what is really going to happen in this electoral cycle. What system are we going to adopt? Let them come out, and if after they come out, somebody else in performing their functions try to derail them, the problem will not be theirs. But as it is, they are contributing to the problem.
But it's not with them to decide.
They should come out with their agenda. If anybody, by their own legal functions,
The presidency.
try, like the president, like parliament, try to muzzle that, they will not be the ones to blame. It will be that institution or that office.
But if they come out now and say, okay, we're going with first past the post or the district block system, wouldn't that be seen as usurpation of powers, them usurping the powers of the presidency? Because even Parliament has submitted to us that the power to choose what electoral system we're going with, lies with the president. So the president can come out to that and say, hey, we're going with the district block system, proportional representation.
Mr. Bangura.
Yes, sir.
We cannot approach election in uncertainties. It has to be clear. That's what they talk about, free, fair, and credible. By fairness, everybody should know what's happening. Everybody should know where we are going. Everybody will know what the systems are. It should not be few people in possession of the knowledge as against the general public not knowing where we are going.
Right.
That is why the Constitution provides for the independence of the Electoral Commission.
And yet still shares
It
the power.
is very, very clear.
And the very Constitution
We
shares
are
the
also
powers.
aware that other bodies have legal rights for certain functions that relate to election.
Right.
So that is why the Electoral Commission should clear itself by coming out with their own schedule. If Parliament comes around and say, well, we want it to be like this, we will now put our focus on Parliament as the institution that is undermining our electoral processes.
All right.
If the president at the nick of time counters what the Electoral Commission has said, then we will know it's the presidency that is undermining our electoral processes.
Okay.
But by neck, not taking a decision at this stage is compromising.
All right. Engineer Kalon, what's next for the SLPP in this process leading to, the end of the first phase already?
Of course, we are pushing our people that are eligible to register, age-wise, citizenship, and etc., etc. I want to make it very clear that the SLPP is very confident in retaining power. That's why we make sure we give the atmosphere that is very transparent and credible for every Sierra Leonean that are eligible to register. Because President Bio, for first-time voter, President Bio, the government of President Bio has invested in the future of children in this nation than any other president in the history of Sierra Leone. He came with a free quality education, which even the APC were questioning where we have that fund to go through that particular project. So we want even first-time voters to register, but not at the detriment of minors that are not eligible. Those that are eligible, we encourage them to go out and register because we know what President Bio has done for their future. They will vote him for his second term. So we are very clear on that. And the APC should not be jittery. This process will be credible, free, and fair. The elections is going to be credible, free, and fair.
What will be the message to those members of the SLPP who are campaigning right now, whose actions are undermining or threatening the smooth process of voter registration?
Well, I encourage every member of the Sierra Leone People's Party to refrain from breaking the electoral laws. Let us maintain peace within the confines of the laws, so that the process, the registration process, will go smoothly.
Okay.
And as it is, when you look at the figures for ECSL, for the 4 days, they say we've registered 415,465. This is a very good number. And today, I overheard the press conference for the chief electoral commissioner saying they took an average of 60 registrants per center. Checking that, then we'll hit our target. Because we have a target for NCRA, those are supposed to be registered about 3.5 to 3.8. This is the range. And we're going to hit that target.
Okay.
People are coming out to register, but we only frown at those that are encouraging minors to come out and register. Those that are presenting fake documents, we will not tolerate that.
Okay. Alfred?
Yes, I want to respectfully disagree with some of the statements made by Engineer Kalon. See, the SLPP is refraining from doing anything that will undermine the electoral process.
Yes.
They are undermining the electoral process. You know, they started undermining it ab initio. How can you even think of appointing somebody who is, a card-carrying member of your party to be head of NCRA, somebody that has contested to be Secretary General of your party? That is undermining of the electoral process. Yeah? How can you employ based on political lineage at ECSL? It is undermining of the electoral process. How can you be at electoral registration centers dishing out money, saying President Bill 2023, Mawa Aliyu and other Fatmata Sawane? These are non-SLPP supporters. It is undermining the electoral process. I think if we want to say we don't want to undermine the electoral process, these are some of the things, yeah?
He has condemned that.
Yeah, but it is happening. It is not just a matter of sitting here condemning it. For him, it may be genuine, but I'm talking about what he's obtaining right now. He may be genuine, yeah? He's a gentleman whom I have respect for. But I'm just saying what is obtaining on the ground.
On your part, you also have people, unscrupulous politicians.
That equally. Nobody should interfere with the
moving
process.
forward.
Yes, allow people to register genuinely. Don't influence them or induce them using money. There will be time for campaign. Now the message should be, when I go to tell people to register, I tell them the benefits. When you want to go for your passport, you'll have to be a registered person in this country. When you want to obtain certain documents, you want to travel overseas, you have to be registered. These are the messages some of us are preaching. Not to say, come vote the APC. When it is time for a declaration of campaign, they will go out and campaign. But for now, tell the people the benefits that they should have when they register. APC is refusing to accept that they are not in power. So say, Reverend. We are in the opposition. We have accepted that long ago. That is also the reason why President Nkrumah was at the National Stadium during the handing over ceremony. He handed over power. President Bill was congratulated. He peacefully handed over power to President Bill with a handing over note as to the state of affairs he was leaving the country with President Bill. So we accepted that, yeah? That is why we are doing everything as a responsible opposition to come back to power through the ballot and not by any means. Let that be made very clearly. SLPP is creating the enabling environment for everyone to be registered, including the first-time voters. So say Engineer Kalon, I disagree. In fact, you are creating more problems for the first-time voters not to, have the opportunity to register. I don't see the need for the free quality education to be mentioned, but I want to also state that the free quality education is an abysmal failure in this country. That is just too clear. They have promised and they have failed to deliver.
Okay. Let me take this final message from Dr. Freddie Lawson in the UK. He's saying, why are Sierra Leoneans struggling to carry out a very simple registration exercise? This is a very simple exercise carried out in many other countries as a matter of routine. This is kindergarten stuff. The issue of chiefs and other people verifying the ages of people is a joke and cannot be legitimate. Who is held responsible when they get it wrong and deliberately manipulates the process? With the litany of irregularities, malpractices, etc. highlighted so far, this should render the whole process not fit for purpose. All of these anomalies are a representation of a broken society where wrongdoing is accepted as normal practice. I can see trouble ahead. All right, well, we pray that we're able to avert the trouble. Thank you very much, and this is all we have time for, and this is where we end tonight's program. Many thanks to you, the panelists, for honoring our invitation and for being part of the conversation. We do apologize for the conspicuous absence of the representative from the Electoral Commission, Leone, to be part of the program. Many thanks to you, our viewers, for sending your comments, and many thanks to our listeners. We're sorry we couldn't read all of your messages. A repeat of this program comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. Be sure to catch a fresh edition of the program next week. Up next is our AYV Primetime News. My name is Samuel Wise Bangura, and the show has been AYV on Sunday under our flagship elections program, Leone Decides 2023. Until then, take care of yourself and have a great night.